When is a good time to get into gold and silver? Well, there's no time like the present. And if you watch our interviews, that's what our leading analysts and experts are telling us, because this gold rally is not going away anytime soon. Reach out to us at ITM Trading. You can book a Calendly appointment with one of our analysts who will walk you through building a foolproof strategy centered around owning gold and silver, physical gold and silver. Make your Calendly appointment today. Now let's get to our interview. My guest today has a huge warning. He says what they have planned for us, could it get any worse? He says it's going to shock and horrify us. Please welcome back to the show, Gregory Mannarino, also known as the Robin Hood of Wall Street. Gregory, so good to be back with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. We're going to have some fun, I think. We always have fun, don't we?
We always have good time together, just dissecting all this news coming at us. We're going to talk Warren Buffett's latest. But first, look, I watched your latest podcast where you say if you just look at commodities, it's going to tell us everything that's happening right now. Let's start with your analysis of crude oil, which we see soaring here, and what that's really signaling to us.
Well, there's so much going on here. Look, let's just put all this into perspective. It's just too easy, and that should worry people. What I'm talking about here is, look, we're already being told what they're going to do. They always announce what they are going to do. They, who are they? They are the central banks. They're the government of the world. They run it all. They run the monetary system. They run the financial markets. They run the economy. They control the flow of information, except for you and me, okay? They're not going to shut our mouths. There ain't no way that's happening here. But look, what we're witnessing here is a phenomenon. It's an incredible thing here. Central banks collectively are now starting to institute emergency monetary policy. Okay, emergency monetary policy, also known as quantitative easing. This is the same thing they did during the meltdown of '08, where they propped up the stock market, they propped up with the real estate markets here. All this has done is cause price action distortions across the spectrum that are even too much for me, and this is all I do. Okay, it's out of control. It's about to get much worse here. People need exposure to commodities because these are real things. Okay, so what we understand is, again, we're about to enter a new phase as to what central banks are doing to us here, and that is currency devaluation on an even greater scale, and obviously lower rates is what they're promising us here. Although the Fed's in here right now buying all the debt. Look, it's astonishing to me how people need to be told, like infantile entities, what's happening. They can't see it for themselves. And I find this very disturbing, but it's part of the dumbing down process here. All you got to look at here is the yield curve that's been cratering. You got the central bank issued currencies getting their purchasing power sucked out. And this is the backbone of everything we're seeing, this global issue of inflation. This is not by accident. This is no comedy of errors that got us here. This is deliberate. And with this new phase that the Fed is going to make their announcement again that they're cutting rates. They're already cutting rates. Mortgage rates just fell to a 2-year low. How could mortgage rates fall to a 2-year low if the Fed's not cutting rates? They're buying all the debt. When the Fed buys the debt, pushes bond yields down, obviously that has an effect on rates. The Fed's buying it all. And of course, weakening the currency as well. Now, this is going to be the theme moving forward. So it's a no-brainer in my view. First of all, look, what are the dynamics of this? What happens when a central bank institutes quantitative easing? Again, you're getting into the market, artificially suppressing rates and devaluing the currency. It's a ripple effect. Number one is it opens up a doorway for cash to make its way into risk assets or stocks. Okay, so they want to prop up the stock market. The illusion of the market, which we don't even have a market anymore, is very powerful. People follow this thing and they say, hey, hold on a minute. The economy must be strong because the market's at all-time highs or record highs. We've been hitting it, right. record high. But it also causes cash to come out of assets it should be going into, that is commodities. Okay, so commodities are on sale. And the more the Fed does this, the more on sale commodities are going to go. You got to be diversified here. Greg Mannarino attacks this market in multiple ways. Okay, this market, whatever we have, it's a free for all. That is buying the market, staying long the market, buying the dips in this market, owning commodities, gaining exposure to commodities, and yes, of course, cryptocurrencies as well. Other things too, artwork, musical instruments, collectible things. Cash moves through the markets in predictable patterns. When you have this environment of risk on, and it's about to get much more extreme with central banks now going to pump the world full of more debt than we've ever seen before in the history of the world. It's an insane situation here. We do not need lower rates. We do not need a weaker currency. These are economic destroyers. What we actually need is higher rates and a stronger currency, trickle down economics. That's the backbone of every single developed nation on this earth. What is trickle down economics? Trickle down economics is a scam that is being sold to the people of the world, saying if we're going to make the rich even richer and more powerful, because that's all this does. Okay, this trickle down economics is, and it's supposed to trickle down to the people down here. It don't work. It never works here. There's something called the Cantillon effect. I want people to just do a little research on this here. The people at the top always benefit from money printing, from debt creation, while the people at the bottom, after all this cash trickles down through the economy and finally makes it to them, a process which could take years, depending on how the economy is running. If you have a slow economy or a contracting economy, which we have here on a global scale, it takes a long time. It could take years to make its way. By that time, the currency's lost half of its purchasing power. So the people at the 1% and 2%ers, they get it like an arbitrage opportunity here to use that new currency here, which has purchasing power, and then when it gets down to the lower ends, they get sucked dry. But again, to fix this situation is very simple. We need higher rates. We need a stronger currency. We would build the economy up from the bottom. Is there any secret why we don't have mom and pop shops anymore? The small businesses are basically being erased and fulfilling the corporate agenda. That's what this is all about. And they're destroying all of us via this mechanism. So yes, you need exposure to commodities because they're on sale right now. Risk on is going to turn risk off. Cash eventually is going to make its way into risk off assets. Commodities also get, like I said, cryptocurrencies, artwork, musical instruments, classic cars. I own them all. You got to be diversified. Anyway, so that's really how it's going to play out.
You raised so many valid points, but two things I want to pinpoint. So one, let's talk about that false economy, because I actually thought of you at the start of this month when you saw with the yen carry trade that blip on how, whatever you want to call it. It was a global market meltdown that erased itself in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Was that what were you thinking during that time? And were you surprised how in a matter of, not even a day, everything was erased, everything was back to normal?
I jumped all over this market, and everyone knows it. I'm on public record. On Monday, when we had the sell-off on Friday, we had the follow-through on Monday, I added aggressively to my positions, and they all rebounded, and I obviously am much richer now than I was then. Okay, this is a game that is being played. When I saw that happen, the first look, people are being distracted. Everyone's focused on this stock market. The stock market is a derivative, meaning it derives value from what's happening in the debt market. I watch the debt market. That's all I watch. The debt market is always right. This is an old adage going back as far as you want to go on Wall Street. Okay. The debt market is going to tell people what they need to do. The debt market right now, it's obviously it's the biggest bubble in the history of the world. It's being fueled even more. It's going to end in absolute disaster. But realizing when I watched the market falling off of a cliff those 2 days here, two things happened. One is I looked at what the U.S. 10-year yield was doing. Why the U.S. 10-year yield? It's the benchmark. It was doing nothing. It was actually coming down. And then I watched the dollar fall off the cliff. I said, this is a buying opportunity. This is a buying opportunity. So I told all my lions, everyone that follows my work, what I was doing. I don't suggest anyone does anything. I tell them what I'm doing, and if they feel like following me, that's fine. Okay, if not, that's fine too. Everyone told me I was going to be. So many people, Greg, you're wrong. Blah blah blah. This is the top. It's nowhere near the top because we got again massive currency devaluation coming at us, artificial press rates, massively hyper ballooning global debt, central banks destroying their currency by design, and central banks are betting against their own system. I want people to think about that right now. How many people really understand this and probably know what I'm about to say? And do your own research on this, people. 25% of the world's gold is hidden in vaults under Wall Street. That's a fact. Number two, Why are central banks collectively right now at a 5-year high with regard to their gold acquisition? They're betting against the same system they're forcing us to participate in. Another reason why you need to hold commodities. That was nothing here. I mean, it's melting down. The yen carry trade is over. The market's going. It's a joke. What they do is they want to hype people up. They want to create fear. They want to paralyze people. You want to make people freeze up, you make them afraid of something. You want to control their minds, you make them afraid of something. There's no fear here. It's too simple. Understanding the dynamics that are in play really makes it easy for everyone who has even one functioning brain cell, maybe two, to understand what they need to do. And that's pretty much what I'm all about, is providing solutions to people by raising their awareness as to what's happening to them, period.
Okay, wait a second. I just thought of another question. You think the gold's hidden? I've heard this, that the gold's really hidden under Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think it's in Fort Knox?
I don't know what's in Fort Knox, but I know this. I know that the Wall Street institutions, the investment banks, look, the richest people in the world are hoarding gold. And I still believe that silver is the most undervalued asset on the planet Earth. And I don't just pull this out of a hat. I look at the Dow gold ratio, I look at the gold silver ratio, and I try to discern where the bottom is. I just did a whole video about this. I just wrote a whole paper about how this should play out here. Where's the bottom in this market? We don't know. But I would say it's somewhere around the Dow. I'm looking at a Dow potential of hitting 8,000 when we melt down. And I believe we're going to get a 1-to-1 ratio gold to the Dow ratio. And that means, and in an extreme situation, we can get a 10-to-1 with regard to silver gold. So, that's just my take on it. I urge people to do their own research on this. All right, don't take anything I say. If it hits you the wrong way, do your own research. If what I say is hitting you the right way, and I think most people who follow our work get it. People know when they're being lied to or when they're being misled. Just it's too simple. Honestly, if you just realize what is going on here, we know who our enemy is, we know who our enemies are, and we know what they want out of us. They want control. They want to extort our freedoms and liberties out of us. This is not just an issue here in the United States; it's the worldwide phenomenon going on here, and it's central banks who run the entire show. Why is it? Does anybody find it surprising that central banks have their bases in every continent on the earth here? They're destroying us by design. It's the one world government we've been told about. This is not science fiction. They control it all. Everything else is just a show. And that's it. It's we got to focus on this, and we have to decide what we want. People are looking for so-called this leader or so-called that leader to lead them into some promised land. Ain't happening. Okay, people consistently have their faith in the wrong place, and unfortunately, it ends badly.
Gregory, you mentioned the mom and pop shops and how they're disappearing. And we often hear how they just want to kill the middle class, get rid of the middle class. Explain to us why that is. How do they benefit by not having a middle class? They want the tax money.
Well, what they're trying to do here, look, I believe we're moving into a whole entire new system. This system that we're in must be deconstructed. It must be deconstructed, and this has been going on for quite a while now. Part of that is creating dependency on the system. They are creating dependency on the current system that they themselves are betting against. What they don't want a 3-tier society anymore. What they're looking to build worldwide is a neo-feudal system. Extreme haves, extreme have-nots. They want a slave class down here that's going to work for nothing, or maybe actually be slaves yet again here. This 3-tier society is a relatively new thing. It's only a couple hundred years old. Before that, people lived under the rulership of kings and queens. Today, we're supposed to be this nation here, the United States, specifically, tried to pull away from that feudal system being ruled underneath a king, but we're being pushed back. They don't want it. They don't want this right now. We, the people, unfortunately, of the world, have lost the ability, or maybe the understanding, that we are supposed to be able to govern ourselves. Instead, it's that whole thing has been swept away. People have no idea. They think that that some other person is going to have their best interest in mind. You got to be freaking kidding me! Ain't the truth? But that's what they're doing here. This is a move to, I can't even define what we're going into, but it's some type of a neo-feudal system, extreme haves and extreme have-nots here. And that's another thing. That's another reason why I don't believe they're done. I think that central banks are in their final phase here. I really do. And that's where we're going to see an accelerated currency devaluation, and central banks right now instituting emergency monetary policy. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be doing great. Our economy is the envy of the world. You remember that out of the mouth of Biden recently?
Now our economy is literally the envy of the world.
What they're doing here is, again, leading us down that pathway, unfortunately. And that's what they're doing here. They really want to foster a new two-tier society. And I think we're getting there right now. Do you realize people don't have any idea that under the last three presidents here in the United States, we've seen the 1% and 2%ers, we've seen more billionaires and millionaires being created in the last 3 years than ever in history. How does that work? And while everyone else is suffering here, the system is designed right now and being pushed into a way to remodel it, to reshape it, to deconstruct, lead to a new one here. So the 1% and 2%ers own it all. They, and not just own it all, again, are the ones who they are benefiting from the system while everyone else pays for it. It's always the middle class. The middle class has been sucked dry. They don't have much left. And people are being pushed to the lower rung. I told people this was going to happen years ago. And it's happening right now to a very accelerated degree. And I think it's going to get worse moving forward.
Gregory, speaking of those who own it all, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, reaching $1 trillion market capitalization. It's the first non-tech company in the US to score the coveted milestone. But more interesting on the Warren Buffett front, and I want to get your take on this, continuing to sell his holdings of Bank of America. 24.6 million shares.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome here. Bank of America has got problems, and I've been warning about this for years. I think literally for years, probably over the last two, where I said, if you look at the Wall Street banks, look, they got to set up a fall guy here. I believe this with all I got. They have the system. People need to have an entity to blame. What they're doing here, okay, obviously this deconstruction of the system, they need a scapegoat. It can't be that it's central banks that are bringing the world to their knees. You're not going to hear any presidential candidate talk about this. They can't point their finger at the Federal Reserve. It's a blame game. It's just the way it is. The Federal Reserve, these guys, they're on the side of angels. Okay, so they're helping us. They want to get us out of inflation, which they could have ended in a nanosecond if you want to talk about that. The real way they could have gotten rid of inflation, but it would never happen. But anyway, so with this whole thing with Bank of America, I believe that they're being set up as the fall guy for. There's going to be an event. They have to point to it, whether it's going to be another scamdemic. I believe something hideous. They're going to spring, because last time the face diapers and all that stuff wasn't enough. Didn't create enough fear. Imagine a disease process where there were marks on the body. I just poked myself in the eye. Where people would run to the doctor, in my opinion, and get that bioweapon pushed into themselves, and they because the fear. They make people afraid. People are going to run. That's what they want to do. They want to create control. Anyway, but besides that, so an event is going to occur, has to happen, whether it's going to be a disease process, multiple disease processes, maybe a war, expanding war. I have no idea, a combination of something where they're going to point to as the system comes down, so they can say, hey, listen, we got a solution for you. And of course, the central banks are going to be more than happy to say, hey, you know what? They already have a solution here. They're destroying their own system. They're betting against their own system by hoarding gold, central banks, but they want us to participate in it. They don't want you in gold. They don't want me in gold. No. They want you and me in the dollar or the euro or whatever central bank you're unfortunately forced to exist under at this particular time. But Bank of America, I think, is going to be the fall guy. They have to do this. They did it last time. They did the same thing during the meltdown of '08. It's a repeat performance. Right. Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns here. Now it appears to me it's going to be Bank of America. So he has to do this now. So we can say, hold on a minute. No, I didn't have any foreknowledge that this was being set up. I urge people, look at Bank of America's performance as to its peers. You'll see what I'm talking about here. This bank is underperforming. There's a reason for that. I think more people like Warren Buffett are going to be pulling their cash out of this institution. I say avoid it like the plague. Do what they do. These people like Warren Buffett, they have an insight that you and I don't. Let's be honest, right? You and I can sit here and speculate, and we could try to make sense of what's going on here. But this is what's happening. And it's just too clear to me. So but the solutions are in our freaking face. We know what banks to avoid. First of all, people need to get their cash out of the smaller institutions. I've been telling people this since before it started. When the regional banks started having problems, I don't know, over a year ago, I was telling people, these institutions have a problem. No loans, no deposits, no deals. Now, the big institutions have the same issue, including Bank of America here. But the big institutions have the main line to the Federal Reserve. What they're doing here, as they deconstruct the system, is consolidate power in fewer and fewer hands. Should make sense to people what I'm saying. So what we're going to see, and this is being hidden from the public, the banking system, first of all, it operates in a perpetual vacuum. It's absolutely insolvent. The entire financial system operates in a black hole which can never be filled. Henceforth, why? Every mechanism that you could think about, dream about, or even have a nightmare over is going to be utilized to pull cash into the now from the future. The debt-based system is a curse upon the world, run by the central banks, and we're forced to participate in it. Meanwhile, they're betting against it, these central banks themselves. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, that's where we're going here. So be very leery of what you're seeing, understand. Open your mind. Why are these things happening? What we're going to see, there's no doubt in my mind at all, is these smaller banks, the smaller institutions they're going to start to collapse as in a cascade. And what's going to happen here is the big institutions, just like they did, are going to swoop in and buy the good assets off the smaller institutions for pennies on the dollar. And you know who's going to get stuck with the garbage? You are. So am I. We the people are. That's what they did last time, and they're going to do it again. Why? Because it worked.
Wait, Gregory, I want to ask, going back to Bank of America, are you saying in terms of the big banks, you see them falling?
I think Bank of America is going to be the fall guy. I think that's the bank that more than likely, it could be another one too, but I mean, in combination. But I think Bank of America, from everything that I look at, and I talk to everybody, and I study this stuff, I think Bank of America is going to be set up as a fall guy, the fall guy. Look what we did, everyone. We allowed this institution to fail. And what will happen is, again, Bank of America's good assets will get bought out by the other banks, and the bad assets are going to be put on our backs.
Well, wait. Let me ask you this. Because if Bank of America, let's just play the scenario, is in on it or whatever, I mean, aren't they like, wait a second, why do we need to be the fall guy? I mean, are they not aware of the script?
Of course they're aware of the script, and they know where it's going.
But it benefits them, you're saying. But does it benefit them? Why would they allow it to happen?
It doesn't benefit that bank. Of course it doesn't. But the collective, it's all about the collective. It's not about a single institution. And that's why we're going to see the smaller institutions, and then they're going to allow, just like they did last time. They didn't have to do that. The Lehman Brothers event, the Bear Stearns event, what happened to the assets of Bear Stearns? What happened to the good assets? All of them. They got bought out by JP Morgan. All the good assets. Who got stuck with the bad stuff? We did. Same thing happened with Lehman Brothers. They're going to do this again too. They're going to say, look what we did, people. We allowed this institution to fail. Of course, they're being set up to fail here. But again, and then, but the public needs to assign blame. Or have someone tell them who is responsible. Oh, look at all the bad stuff we found on their balance sheet. They're responsible. And of course, it's collective. What's going on here? Look, when you see something like Warren Buffett, what he's doing right now, and he's not the only one pulling their cash out of this. It's just, I've been talking about Bank of America for years. And now to find out what's going on here, just really brings it home to me that I've been on target with this. And look, I'm not telling people, I think people need to get their cash out of all these institutions. If they only keep in these institutions what you need. Because again, what's the bigger picture here? What's going to end up happening here is too simple. All we got to do is look back on history. What was really going on in 2008 when the market started to crash 2009? Was it really about the stock market, the Dow that went from 12,000 to 6,000? Was that really what it was all about? Absolutely not. Why was it that Ben Bernanke made his way over to Congress on, I think it was on a Saturday, and he went before our loving, caring representatives and told him specifically, he said, if we don't do this, push billions of dollars into the system to free up the credit markets, he said, we would not have an economy on Monday. What we were facing was we're in a liquidity crisis now, but the system was locking up. The system must be fueled with more debt. Henceforth, why we have a global economy contracting, the money ballooning, and the more that the currency loses purchasing power, the more they have to balloon the currency. It's a vicious cycle here. So again, it wasn't the stock market crash, it was the liquidity crisis. And that's what we're going to face moving forward. We're already in one. We can see what central banks are going to do. We're going to get a lockup of the system again. But this time, they're going to say, okay, everyone, these are the people that are responsible. This is the event, but we have a solution. Because once the system locks up, what this means is transactions stop. You go to your bank, there's no cash in there to get out. You go to ATM, there's no cash in there. You can't swipe your debit card. You can't use your credit card. It's just gone. The system will lock up.
And the solution, central bank digital currency?
They're gonna offer, of course. They already have one. They already have this whole system. The system is already almost digital now. How many people actually use cash? Very, very few. All of us, me, I'll be honest with you, I carry very little cash on me. Most of the time, unfortunately, we all participate in the system. We're swiping. We want those benefits that they offer us by swiping from the credit card companies. We all want it. So we're actually asking for it in many ways. And what they're going to do is they're going to, of course, give us what we want. Just for an example, as giving us what we want, people were screaming from rooftops after the meltdown in 2008. Oh, my 401k, I lost all my money. I can never retire. So what did they do? They propped up the market and people were happy, weren't they? All those digits appeared back on their screen again after X amount of time here. People were loving it. You always get what we want. People get what we ask for because we have lost the ability to govern ourselves. Okay. They take advantage of us. And then they try to package things up nicely and neatly and say, hey, this is what you want, right? Here you go. Of course, we're moving to a central bank digital currency, a one world system, cross-border system here. And then they're going to track every freaking thing that we do down to the fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny. You won't even be able to lend your friend $5 to go for anything without him or her, their transaction being of course, trackable. That's what they're doing here. It's all about a theft of our liberties and our freedoms, and people are willingly surrendering them as they are made slaves to the system. And that's what they're doing right now. And unfortunately, it's going to get a lot worse.
Well, and I thank you for your education, Gregory, and all you do. And we're all about empowering people and offering solutions. And I know for you, it's commodities. But
it's everything.
you get.
I attack this market from every angle, like I said. I believe people need exposure to commodities because they're on sale. I also think people need to be long this market too. I've been buying the dips across this for years. I've been buying the dips in this market, and I'm telling my lines to hold it fire. I think when the Fed makes their announcement, once they finally say we're cutting rates, even though they're buying it all right now, I think the market has the potential to take a hit. I'm not calling for a crash here. I think the market's going to fall. Wall Street works in very specific ways. Buy the rumor, sell the news. You've all heard this before, more than likely. I believe this is, and I could be wrong. It doesn't matter either way. Because if I'm wrong, so what? The market goes up. Me and my lines, we're still long the market. If the market does fall, let's say it falls a couple 1,000 points over a couple of days like it just happened, it's going to bounce right back. Once the market realizes the Fed's in here, they're buying it all. They're going to devalue the dollar further. Again, how does a central bank keep rates suppressed? Do they just say it? Do they wave a lovely magic wand? No. They have to create the cash out of nothing and buy the debt. They're monetizing all the debt. And of course, the more they do this, the stronger they become. Their product is debt. The more debt they're allowed to issue or called on to issue by promises of lower rates, which we're hearing out of both presidential selectees right now, the stronger they become, not the weaker. And we, the people, are paying the price.
Gregory Mannarino, we will keep tracking and following this Bank of America story that could be getting a lot bigger. I want to thank you. And hi to all your lions. I mean, I like you grew the lion mane.
Oh yeah, I'm turning into a lion, right?
Hey, by the way, I want to say thank you because I know you're a big animal lover, and I thank you for all the work you do, like urging people to adopt and whatnot. I know it was National Dog Day the other day, and that's really great. Kudos to you for that.
Yeah, we all got to do our part, man. We got to create a better world.
But it helps keep you sane, right? You got to have a hobby or a passion, something outside of these markets.
It's too much.
Gregory Mannarino, folks. We'll see you soon, and thank you all for watching. We'll have more great content coming your way. Be sure to stay tuned to the Daniela Cambone Show and sign up at danielacambone.com to stay on top of it all. We'll see you soon.